So this came out in Mother Jones yesterday. A damning new report alleges Doge and Trump allies dismissed warnings that Starlink posed serious security threats. Imagine working at a White House communications as a White House communications expert when, on a brisk February morning, you look up and see a crew of unannounced Elon Musk associates climbing the roof of the Eisenhower Executive Office building. You squint and quickly learn that this unit belongs to Starlink, the very company you had identified as posing serious security concerns. But there they are, scaling the roof to install internet service for the White House. That's essentially what the scenario outlined in a stunning new report from the Washington Post today, alleging that Doge and Trump administration officials outright dismissed concerns from the White House's communication team that Musk's Starlink internet service was rampant with security risks. That report included an exceedingly flimsy Wi-Fi network that could rival your own personal setup. A Starlink guest Wi-Fi network appeared on White House phones in February, prompting users only for a password, not a username or a second form of authentication, according to the People. That Wi-Fi network is still appearing on White House's visitors' phones this week. The government reliance on Starlink is not new. On the contrary, the U.S. depends on Musk's business heavily throughout the vast corners of our military and national security apparatus. But the Post reporting once again demonstrates the stunning authority with which Doge and Musk, at least before the spectacular blow-up with the president this week, have been able to wield within the Trump administration. This latest revelation is just the latest national security red flag to come from the Trump administration. The Qatar plane, the $400 million bribe, Pete Hegseth's entire personality, confirmed hackers, etc. Starlink is now one of several government contracts that could be on the chopping block now that President Trump and Musk are on the outs. This, regardless of what you think of Musk, will pull the feud into blatantly lawless territory. But regardless of the fate of Musk and Starlink, the core stupidity of Trump's White House remains intact. Don't be too surprised to see unannounced workers have started climbing the rooftop once again. That's pretty right on brand, I'd say. Anae O, the contributor for that story, also wrote this: the Trump-Musk wrestling match is far from over. After a public wrestling match that featured ugly insults and Jeffrey Epstein accusations, President Trump, we all know that already, President Trump and Elon Musk appear to have dialed down their fury in time for the weekend. But tensions still simmer. Late Friday, Musk, one of the Republican Party's biggest donors, once again backed the idea of a new political party to represent what he described as the 80% in the middle. It's not that. It's the 80% of us who just can't stand what either party's doing right now. That's all. We don't like you, Musk. He also continued to post a string of attacks against the president's sweeping tax and spending bill, signaling that the billionaire had no intention of dropping the very criticism that prompted the feud to break out in public this week. Meanwhile, Trump on Friday was still defending himself from Musk's explosive allegation that the president is named in the Jeffrey Epstein files. The social media activity on both sides signaled that the fighting was far from over. What happens next is anyone's guess. But like any high-profile divorce that takes a vicious turn, I imagine that the parties involved are using this relative quiet to weigh more nuclear options, including the cancellation of Musk's government contracts. Trump suggested so himself. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts. God, we on the left have been saying that for months. Yeah. I was always surprised Biden didn't do it. If carried out, my colleague Jeffrey Schuman argues the move would likely be illegal and a direct threat to democracy. Trump clearly has the upper hand in this nasty spectacle. But even with Musk as MAGA pariah, Doge is clocking in critical wins that many warn will have profound consequences for everyday Americans and their most sensitive personal information. The Supreme Court on Friday allowed Musk's team to go gain access to Social Security information. A separate order issued on Friday also protected Doge from having to answer any Freedom of Information requests. That's bullshit. That is so fucking corrupt. If they're a government organization, then they should have to answer Freedom of Information requests. I can't believe. So the current score between Trump and Musk, America loses again. Because who's gonna lose in all of this anyway? We the people are the only ones that's going to suffer from this shit. The tariffs, the crash of the economy, they don't care about that. They have enough money to live like 100 different lives in opulence, right? They do. We don't. We don't have that. We just don't happen to have that luxury in our lives. So we the people will be the ones that will suffer again for all of their stupidity, corruption, and openly flaunting the openly just flouting the law and the Constitution at the same time. The very Constitution that they took oaths to protect. But, he's a liar in chief, pedo in chief, all of that. Don Jr. came out after that and said, "Don't you think if my dad was on the Epstein list, like Democrats would have like said this like immediately?" Yeah, we have been. We've been pointing out the flight logs, the call logs, the witness testimony, the grand jury testimony by one woman. In fact, I've put it in my repost, where she gives evidence in a deposition about how she was assaulted by both Epstein and Trump at the same time when she was 13. And we all know Michael Wolff talks about the photos that he saw with his own fucking eyes. One with Trump with all these underage girls on his lap, and another of those same girls pointing at his pants, at the wet spot in front of his pants, standing up and pointing at his pants. Those two were kept in Jeffrey Epstein's vault in his Palm Beach estate. Now, that vault was raided by the FBI under whose term? Yeah, you guessed it, felon 47s. Yeah, who admitted to his answer to Musk's accusation were him putting a truth up about him, how his lawyer went to see Epstein 9 days before his death and asked him specifically about his involvement. Basically, you got shit on him? Do you have anything on him? Do you have anything on the president? Because we need to know where it is right now. Yeah, that kind of thing. He admits it. These people are just so incompetent. Even when it comes to their lies, they're just so transparent as to be both insulting and hilarious at the same time.